Thank you for joining us. And I hope you must be enjoying the session which are already taking place, the Power Pack sessions. And I'm really glad to have you on board and begin this session. Just a small backdrop of what the topic talks about. I would say the art of managing and running the workforce is always relied on middle managers, and hence we claim them as innovators. But why is the need to talk about them while discussing about top line growth is a question for everyone. In my sense, I would say that it's because at the end, it's the hard work of middle managers, only which can make or break an organization's growth strategy. Senior executives are bound to come up with exquisite strategies for an organization's growth, but if people who design, who talk, who curate, are the ones overseeing operations don't foster innovation in their respective realms, none of the brilliance, I think, will make a bit of difference. And I believe everyone here might agree with me. Here I come on to my first question of the discussion. How has the middle managerial role in terms of organizational agility changed during pandemic and during the recovery phase? We can begin with the Prem sir, and I would really like to have your analysis as to what is your thought upon the same.
Okay, so then to start, we are organization. We had to come into work because that's the nature of our work. Blue Aviation is a cargo carrier, and we carried all sorts of things from China, the medicine, everything. We had to be at the spot. Now, it did create some initial issues because the families were not happy about employees because of high situation. But we managed to get over this, and basically it was all forward. They came back and told their families that look, very, very good because we made sure that all the sanitization, everything was done. But we did have issues. We had problems with people not knowing whether it's the right thing to do. How do we manage our people down the line? So we had to spend time with our middle management because they were the guys stressed out, looking at the job at the shop floor. And they had to be in, and invariably they had to get maybe 2 shifts at a time, at least the start of the second shift before they so these things were, but luckily for us, we had started a succession plan for our middle managers about this time. This was actually started at the end of 2019, but we had scheduled it to continue to 2020. And this introduction of the series of modules related to the succession plan came in very handy for us because they took off from that. They learned from that and practiced a lot of things which they were not exposed to earlier. And we found that a great, great benefit. For instance, one of the things that we did in HR was at the peak of the pandemic, we got in touch with every one of our employees. Asking them about the families, asking about their health, asking about issues that they would have, whether we could be of any help. Now, the middle managers took on this role soon after that, and that gave them a tremendous ability to build the team even further, to bring the teams together, and I think that stood them in very good stead. So, a lot of small, innovative things that we came up with was really effective. And I think today they feel much stronger as managers, and I think they learned it on the job. They learned it by themselves. Great, they've done.
So, I would say that you believe that it's better that, if a responsibility is actually levied on them, not in terms of training them first, but then if it is given on them in a practical phase, they would learn it in a much better way.
Yeah, they could apply their training immediately. Whatever was, you talk about empathy, you talk about, being on the shop or being hands-on, everything they had to do. So that was a tremendous, we were lucky in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, I would say pandemic has given a room for everyone to be pro and to be spontaneous.
That's
So
right.
lot many actions, lot many steps had to be taken spontaneously, which weren't planned.
That's right.
So first time I would say, and we've seen that something which has been so unplanned for the industries across has come out so well in different arenas across industries.
Very true, very true. Yeah, and in fact, we didn't have to lay off people. We went ahead with our bonuses and our increments. So,
Great.
So it was great.
And I believe the employees must be very happy also and very contented also with
Very
the
happy.
steps.
Yeah. Our survey on employees to be a very good one last year.
Great. Okay. Welcome, Renu ma'am, on board. Great to have you. I come on to my next question now. How can leaders, according to you, help elevate middle managerial burnout in a work from home module or a hybrid situation where human contact is varied? It's difficult. If you think of it, it's difficult. But then, how do you think that the change has been elevated?
You're talking to me or?
I'm talking to Renu ma'am.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So thank you, first of all, Businessworld, for inviting, and I'm so happy to be in this panel of people whom I know and I've been meeting them.
Great.
Yeah. So to your question, I think your question is not a straight, not a difficult question. It doesn't have a straight answer. Over the years, how have we been promoting managers, all these years? So if you are a very good individual contributor, you are a professional, you have individual competence, you have functional competence, over the years, you become manager. I think in the pandemic situation, it was so unprecedented and it was a crisis for all of us. We realized that managerial acumen is quite different from being an individual contributor. So therein we found that the senior leadership were maybe seeing something. They had a sense of urgency. They were passing it down to the middle management for getting things done on technical plane, and the middle managers had to rely on the frontliners. Frontliners were at times not available, or available, but they may be lacking skill because we were now working in a different environment, facing different kind of complexities. For example, in Shankar, India, we had warehouses who were being closed because of lockdown, and we had to make them open through the legal machinery and other things. So managers who had never dealt with authorities were now dealing with them to make the business open, B, talking to customers, and C, ensuring that the production goes on. At this juncture, middle managers had the buck was stopping at their end. They could not pass it on down, because if the team below them was not available, was not productive or efficient, the buck was stopping at their end, and this put them under a lot of pressure. And so what did the senior leadership do? I can only talk about my organization and my experience. We heard from people at a very junior level that the middle managers were being just task oriented to them. They were being unempathetic because work was so important. We also found in the first 3 or 4 months a series of requests for putting the other team or the team under them under performance improvement plan, because suddenly they found that this team is not competent, and we could understand that it is not performance improvement plan, but it is they are not able to pass on the sense of urgency to the junior team member, and it is difficult, challenging in itself to have the shared goals and walk the talk. We ran a program called Good to Great in the organization. We started somewhere in September month. We covered 102 managers. Anyone who had a team of 5 people, we covered them. And we just said that you work with your team on some practices on how to build a good connect with them. Because I think relationship plays a very important role in getting work done. You can't be just task oriented. You have to be people oriented. So, they were working on some practices around their team on connectedness. It's such an important element for resilience. We know that, if I have to enhance my resilience, obviously I need to have a bigger perspective. I need to have a farmer's perspective. A farmer does not know tomorrow it will rain or not, or maybe in the next 3 months there won't be any rains and there'll be huge drought. But we have been brought up in a salaried environment by our parents. Maybe before that, the last 2 generations have been brought in an urban setup where you have water flowing, where you have electricity and everything. So resilience has a very different meaning. That suddenly everything is not there, which we are so used to. So having that perspective, a broader outlook, a positive outlook, that was also done. At the same time with their team, they were doing something called, inspiring. We said that do some practice which would, inspire your team together. And we worked on this particular program for a period of 4 months. And recently we had this Great Place to Work survey in the organization, and we have been certified. So I'm not saying that an event is so important. Yes, it's an event of pride, but it is lot to link with how do we make the middle managers more competent as managers and more resilient as individuals.
One, you said a very great point is that there has been a void. And Sir said rightly when I was having a word with Prem Sir also, because before, immediately whatever they've been mentored with, whatever they've learned, they had to imply it immediately in such situation, and it has been carried out pretty well. And same is what you said, that we had to fill a void, and it has been a different right for the managers, for the middle managers, to take a role of leadership, I would say, in this arena, to be specific.
Yeah.
And what is your thought on this, Deepak sir? Fighting the pandemic has indeed been challenging, and keeping up with the HR tech. So middle managers' role progressively have become harder. As a leader, do you think that middle managers should stay afloat in order to stay relevant and should evolve themselves?
Great to see you, Renuji. Again, we connect here. It's a virtual world. And Premji, namaskar. It's wonderful to be here. This panel, Businessworld. Excellent. I think I'm very excited about the very concept of the discussion, role of middle managers, how their life has suddenly changed. The workload has become so high, the expectations from them has never been so much, right? They have been, in fact, I think the brief did say about they have perhaps done more work than the frontline workers, which is so beautifully expressed. I think you have touched the nerve of the challenge that every organization is going through, especially the middle level. So the simple answer to your question is yes. The need is there, has been not so much, so high, so huge. And this is a wake-up call for all the organizations, especially the senior management and the board. More often, there is a middle class which is ignored. In any organization, you take the lower strata or the South Mumbai style, the people in the not so doing well suburbs and people on a different, they are the ones who are middle class. They are the ones who are bearing the brunt. In fact, the research also endorses sort of 60% of the population is great, average and above. They are the ones who are doing, majority of them are rating 3 on 5, only 20% of the people they are, and all those concepts are that further kind of puts middle management ignored, and that layer is not looked down unless a situation like the pandemic has come. Definitely, yes. And this is a section of the management layer which is always trying to move up. They are the silent warriors. So definitely yes. That I think this pandemic has taught many lessons to many people, many organizations, even HOD, so to say, HR specifically. So if you look down below now, the traditional models of leadership levels, you starting from high potential employees, trying to do mid-level management development, leadership training program. There's several initiatives that we take at different layers, but more often than not, it's the middle level that is actually holding the fort, right? While I don't want to count the leadership and the guidance, or should I say the insights the top management or the board provides, but definitely yes, there is definitely a need, and this was a great opportunity for middle level to really rise up and show how competent they have been and how they weren't getting the opportunity, right? Well, situations like this, pressures, but there are also rewards. Many of people have got suddenly recognized, noticed, these are our future leaders. So irrespective of at what level you are in any organization, right? Every individual, if you're working for an organization, you have to be relevant. And more so, you are in the middle level, because unless the senior guy doesn't move out, you won't get the opportunity. That's what happens.
Very true.
In my life, I've always moved on and got a big opportunity. When my boss got another opportunity, moved on, some major changes were made in the organization. And that is true of life. Somebody has to create a vacancy for you to be there. Otherwise, you have to keep on knocking the door and do so well, that, ultimately you find your own growth within the organization. If you're smart, you know how to network with the people.
And if you know how to work, you got to know how to stay relevant.
Exactly. That's a short of the long, but that's a great question. And thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I agree with you, and I would say for any role, which is a challenging role, when you're running an organization, every role which you run is a very challenging role, and you've got to keep yourself updated to stay relevant. Because if you're not updated, if you do not know what the industry is going with, if you do not know what your employees want from you, if you don't want what your customer needs are, you cannot stay afloat the boat. It's difficult to run an organization until and unless you're not updated. But I would still have another thing in mind, which has always been a question. Prem sir, you can answer that. How has the pandemic kicked up the need for training the middle managers, particularly in the areas of sensitivity, in the areas of emotional intelligence, empathy, so as to say?
Yeah, I can give you a small example. What has happened over the last 1 year is we had about 95 COVID cases, okay, of which luckily there were no deaths. That was plus for us. But what we told the middle management was to keep in touch with each of these guys. We are spread out all in. Keep in touch with each of these guys on a day-to-day basis, while they were either in the hospital or recouping at the house. And that has built a tremendous trust level in the organization. It's not only from the employee, but also from his family. Today, the middle manager comes back to me, many of them have come back to me saying that, sir, this is what was said about our organization. That I felt was significant, because he was not trying to promote himself, but he was being an ambassador for the organization through whatever he did. And I think that will stand him in good stead as he grows in the organization. I believe, and these are small things that have been done, which has created a tremendous impact on the manager. So the softer skills have come to the fore. The management training that we have given, of course, other than the succession plan, a lot of our training took a hit because we had a lot of training which was basically needed to be done in groups at a particular place, but because of this virtual thing, we couldn't really run it very well. So we had to sacrifice some of these trainings. But whatever has been done, the succession plan has come out significantly. And I think what the managers at the end of the day have realized that small things matter. It's not the jargon that you use, but it's small things like kindness. I always draw a line between the hero manager or hero leader and the servant leadership. Okay, the hero leader is one who likes to make himself a hero, and in that process, he will do anything to make sure that he becomes a hero. But a servant leader, and this is where we emphasized during the training itself, that servant leader and what it means to be a servant leader, the empathy, the ability to relate to, the ability to. So this is what, in our small way, we, and hopefully, the years.
But sir, do you think that, with times going ahead, the need for, instilling in managers a different emotion is increasing now from empathy? Yesterday we were having a conference wherein Mr. Marvin, the MD CEO of Eureka Forbes, he said a very apt line. He said that now there has been a shift from empathy to compassion. Now it's not just empathy that you would want to instill in your managers. Now the another level that has skipped is the level of compassion. Now you've got to be compassionate towards your employees as well. How do you define the shift from now sensitivity to empathy to now compassion? And how important are these emotions to be, instilling in middle managers or to any other level, any leadership level?
I believe that empathy, passion, compassion is built into empathy. You have empathy, you have compassion when you are empathetic to the situation. Otherwise, you wouldn't be empathetic. So that's how I see it. I think it's all rolled up. It's not a different ball game. So I believe that if you have empathy, you have compassion, you have kindness, you have everything else that goes with it. So that's one thing. But the interesting factor here is that business realities haven't been forgotten. Okay, while we talk about all these soft issues, the business realities of the work going on, the work not suffering, and that's the heartwarming. In between all this, when my middle managers are learning empathy, they're learning how to listen to people. Things haven't changed as far as this reality, and that's heartwarming.
Indeed, it is heartwarming. And do you think that there need to be more emotions towards in terms of dealing with your employees? You got to be empathetic, you got to be compassionate, you got to be sensitive. Now with the pandemic coming over and hitting us in so many different ways, there are many other emotions which we need to cater to. We're working from home. The frustration level is rising. We're not able to meet in person. The meetings are being held virtually. So you have more incoming of emotions from different levels. Do you think managers need to be trained in catering to all such emotions of an employee?
Definitely, yes. Definitely, because that's the reality. I mean, that's the reality that we're faced with. Luckily for us, we haven't been working from home. Because for me, working from home was a disaster. I did that for a week. But, I was working overtime. So I didn't really enjoy it. But yes, it is, what you said is absolutely right. It is the need of the hour, yes.
Okay. Ma'am, Renu ma'am, I come on to you, and I really need your advice for people to hear as to, how do middle managers ensure a cohesive team productivity, ensuring bonding. Bonding needs to stay. Now, bonding is a very important vocab here because you're not meeting in person, and bonding is usually associated with when you meet a person in person. Now, how do you ensure this cohesivity stays and grows with time, with now work from home being a usual mandate?
Yeah, so I think you have put many questions in this question, and there is no straight answer again. I don't have any advice. I can only share my experience because we are all in it. At this moment, the pandemic is not over. 2020 is still continuing that way in its own shadow in multiple waves. So again, when you talk about resilience right now, that individual capacity, how resilience is so important. I'm not using it as a buzzword. Because every time HR throws a new word, be it say empathy or compassion, but when I say resilience here, I mean to say all the same things that having a purpose. So in the pandemic time when things are so outlook is so negative, be it business outlook or health outlook, then what is the bigger purpose of life or bigger purpose of your business? And organization bigger purpose just cannot be to earn profit. Now coming back to bonding, you are saying, so I still believe that the most important quality for a middle manager is to network. At times the leaders have some kind of connection with their colleagues, the senior management team, and then they have their own function or their product or their business BU. But the middle manager is supposed to be a networker. Networking not only within his or her functional domain or the BU, but with other cross-functional team members. And their bonding is a way of life. They are not connected to the bigger team or to other team members. Things will not work. We'll be working in silos. And how do we bond when there is no physical bonding opportunity? So there is no cafe to go to, there is no, and having those virtual cake cutting, virtual cafe, virtual coffee at times appears very superficial, but it can be done. There are methods to the madness. You can really have people coming across with a cup of coffee in their in a virtual stream. And I still believe that we need to give space to each other. You use the word empathy and compassion, and for me, empathy in action is respect to your boundary. So I have this phone available. I can call you at any point in time, but I should not call you. And since I'm in the midst of a work, and I know for every row item I can give a call to you and ask you, but that is not the right planning. And here, managers need to respect boundaries. We need to have days in which we don't have any Teams call, any Zoom call, so that we can, it's not for break, we can be focused in our work. And bonding is important. Bonding is, there are multiple channels across bonding. We have WhatsApp group as bonding group. We have, the Teams channel. We have broadcasts. And what we have done, we have tried it successfully in a few BUs where we said that let's have a call with no purpose, where office is not the purpose or the work doesn't drive the purpose, and let them come. And we had sessions in which people brought their photographs, when they were in UKG or they were in going to some mountain and doing horse riding. And it was such a fun to just see their photograph, of past yoga, and then they were talking around it, building a team. We had such sessions where people brought in, their musical instrument, and we bonded using a virtual network. We also used WhatsApp channel to share, some kind of housework that we have done. Somebody trying for making a roti and the roti doesn't come up in a good shape. So this brings an element of bring an element of novelty, an element of humor. And the only thing is that it should not be compulsory. It should not be driven by HR in a very structured manner. It should have an element of surprise and organically driven program. There is no straight answer, but managers, the bonding within the team is managers' responsibility. And the more bonded team you have, I think work will take its own course. Yeah.
So you mean to say that let it flow organically and do not have any structure to it, so that many times it happens that once we have a structure, now we try to put that structure into a stencil, but it doesn't fit. And as you rightly said, sometimes it's got a flow.
I tried this in my group. I'm not that hugely creative, but I wanted to have this element of humor. So I said, okay, let's on Saturday, I put some face mask, I put my photograph there, and I said, what you're doing on this Saturday, just post your photograph. And then we had a very funny kind of chat on that day. And then I passed on the baton, because I said, why should I now think of a new theme for next week? So I said that, this is like an ice bucket challenge. So I'm passing it on to my other team member. Now you think of a theme and will participate. So they
Great. I really like this initiative.
Yeah.
So you, in this way, it's not you alone adorning the hat of creating inclusivity within the group. You're actually, giving out this responsibility. Exactly.
When fun becomes a task, it's no more a fun.
Indeed. And it's a great way to pass on that, it's not just me who's a leader and who has the responsibility to, ensure bonding. Now it's your turn, think of an innovative way. So let's pass it very great way. I mean, I would say.
It's what I tried. Yeah.
No, but then it sounds really interesting, because I am taking on to myself.
It sounds good, and my team liked, because there are so many youngsters in my team who came with their own ideas, and their idea was so unique. I would have thought about only maybe a Saturday mood, or a book you have read, or a TED talk that you have listened to and want to share. But they came with very new ideas, and it was like a lot of fun.
Now that you're telling me, in a way, it's creating a more an element in my head also, that we should have the same within our teams as well.
I call it fun day challenge. I said this is like ice bucket challenge. I'm passing out now, nominating Jagmeet in my team. You think of the theme for next week, and you do it, and then
that's creative in its own way, that you're not taking it as a responsibility. It's a fun activity. Anyone can take it up.
Yeah.
Deepaskar, I believe you must have heard now the fun element that ma'am was talking about. Now coming on to you, what could be your parting advice in order to create a cohesive bonding within the team? Now she took it as a fun challenge. What about you? What's your take on the same? So could you please unmute yourself?
I've heard some wonderful points here, Sugandh, and I would definitely borrow a leaf when she mentioned about farmers' perspective, right? Enthusiasm and compassion built in, like Premji ne kaha. I think there's some wonderful thoughts. Didi, what are you doing this Saturday with a funny face? Is a very, very interesting. I was just imagining in my mind, wow, that would be really good. Right? Having said that, all that is great. The parting advice is to everybody at any level, anytime, till you hang up your boot. You should never do. Okay. That's first number one. So it's never over till it's over actually. So you have to keep on doing your best. Number one is to be good at what you are hired for. You have to be good at functionally, technically, as a manager, what your role you are hired, right? You have to be good. Number one. Second is about you are not alone. You are working with people. Right? You are a part of a team. You can be relevant only if you are relevant to them.
Right.
So this is the second one. So you're not. It's a chain. It's like Vasudeva Kutumbakam. ऐसा कुछ मैंने सुना था संस्कृत में. When you look world as one, you will find deep connect.
Mm-hmm.
You have deep faith in universal good or as a human approach, you will find a lot of joy and love, right? And connectivity. That's very important. So therefore, then compassion comes automatically, empathy comes automatically, caring, genuine care, respect, transparency, plus fun element come. What is fun? You are being yourself with people without any of those masks. It's spontaneous, friendly, like a child. At the same time, we are also responsible. I think life is a joy. You have to live it like that. It's a one-time experience.
It's like responsibility being taken in a very fun way.
Yeah, and if you take it too
And let it
seriously,
flow
then the whole thing is
organically.
gone. Yeah. My advice is enjoy it, do a great job. That's it.
What about you, Prem sir? Let's have a parting advice from you as well.
I think what this pandemic has done this ability to never tap in. And that's what I'm seeing in my middle. They are leaders. One of them is leaders of this. They are tapping into that we never knew that. It's a beautiful. So I think every one of us has that talent, ability, and very often we question ourselves. I mean, like many times when I've said I don't think I can. But today I can say, look, I'll try. I'm sure that I can. I will try at least. And that's what my managers are telling me. Like, I never thought that I could manage in this kind of, in this kind of pandemic. I never, when the pandemic started, I had any answer. But as we went along, we sort of came up with some were bad, some were. So I think that's something that we understand. It's a matter of tapping.
Indeed, and my take would be, in a way, I mean, clubbing it and summarizing it with whatever talks we have, I would say now it's the need of the hour for the managers to buck up. And for not only buck up, for take up different challenges in various roles. So it's not a leadership hat that they have to adorn. Sometimes they got to be empathetic towards their colleagues also. Sometimes they got to be empathetic towards their team. Sometimes, compassion is required for your leader as well, because he's dealing with number of different issues which you might not be even thinking of.
Right.
So baseline is for every role to be existing. One, you got to keep evolving. You got to keep yourself updated. And yes, you got to have various elements of empathy and compassion towards your team as well as towards your leaders.
That's right.
Thank you so much for all of you to take out time to be a part of our event and share out such knowledgeable insights. The number is catching an attraction gazingly. We've crossed a limit of 1100 and it's very surprising to see. And thank you so much for all of you to be a part of the event and to share the insights. Thank you so much.
Sugandh, just one last word from my side. You may regard Talish and Dr. Batra, and two things for our friends, people, especially middle managers. Be patient. Your time will come. Enjoy this period. Go there on the top. There is never a dull moment there. Life is going to be different. Enjoy this time. Do well and just be patient.
I'm sure they'll be taking your advice.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Renu
much.
and Sugandh, I have learned a lot from this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Renuji. Thank you,
you.
Prem sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Over to you, Khyati. Thank you.